What's up, everybody? Cody Pasby with you for another edition of Mojobreak's Hobby Stars of the Week. A few athletes that we're highlighting that we think you should keep an eye on if you're in the hobby. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs, plus a little football, and of course, we can't forget the boys on the diamond as well. So let's get things kicked off. Let's start things off with Atlanta Hawks superstar Trae Young, because what a show he put on in New York City. This guy is the baby-face assassin. The newborn baby assassin? I mean, seriously, if Steph Curry looks baby-faced, this kid literally is a baby. Like, he looks like a baby. But hey, he's not playing like a baby right now. This guy is the real deal. He's playing grown man basketball. And look, there have been guys who have been bigger performers, have had better stat lines in the NBA playoffs so far. I can think of one guy that the hobby really, really likes that has been pretty good so far this postseason. But I think for Trae Young, nobody has had a bigger impact of changing sort of the fabric, the storyline of the NBA. And yeah, part of that is because he's playing in New York City. A lot of eyes were focused on that Hawks and Knicks series because the Knicks back in the playoffs was a big deal. Trae Young, an exciting young superstar. The Atlanta Hawks, an exciting young team. But he totally took full advantage of the moment and shined brightest when he was in New York City. Overall in the series, Trae Young averaged just shy of 30 points per game and just shy of 10 assists per game and shot just shy of 45% from the field, but it was in Madison Square Garden where Trae Young did most of his damage, averaging just shy of 33 points per game and absolutely killing it as the role of villain in New York. There are names in New York City that are just utterly despised now because of what they did in Madison Square Garden. Reggie Miller comes to mind. Michael Jordan, obviously, for years. And now Trae Young fits right into that. That's a pretty good list to be a part of. I'm not saying Trae Young is going to be the next Reggie Miller or he's going to be the next Michael Jordan. This guy still has a long way to go for his all-around game. Yes, he might always be in the shadow of Luka just because they were in that same draft together, but I think this guy deserves his own recognition, the spotlight to himself here. He's been incredible. I think his game still has a long way to go. If he can fix up the defensive issues, we know what he is as a shooter. Prices of Trae Young's single cards on the secondary market did take a bump up in price after that series win against the New York Knicks, but I think there is still a significant amount of room to grow here. Atlanta's not a small market. I know it's not New York or Chicago or anything, but that's still a place where superstars can be born and thrive. Trae Young absolutely has all the talent in the world and all the personality to become a face of the NBA. All right, our next pick, let's talk about Kris Bryant, Chicago Cubs third baseman. Look, I know that there's these three young cats who are leading the league in home runs right now. Vladdy Jr., Ronnie Jr., Fernando Jr. I know that. These guys are huge stars in the hobby. Why am I not talking about them? I talked about Vlad last week, for one. And also, I did two pretty extensive videos about Ronnie Jr. and Fernando Tatis Jr. back in the offseason, so you can watch those there if you want to hear more about those guys. Everyone's going to be talking about those guys. We're going to keep talking about those guys, but I want to focus on the old guys. And when I say old, 29, that's not old, that's younger than me. So I want to talk about Kris Bryant, the former MVP, the former Rookie of the Year, the former World Series hero. This guy is having a resurgent 2021 campaign, but I'm a little shy to even call it resurgent. I think there's been a bit of an unfair narrative that Kris Bryant, because of some injuries, has not quite lived up to expectations over the last few years. And yes, he hasn't played a full season since 2018. I'll give you that. But when Kris Bryant has been healthy, he has been the guy the Cubs have expected. He's been that savior that brought the championship to the north side of Chicago. This guy is a legit superstar when he is on, and right now he is on. Just take a look at Kris Bryant's park-adjusted stats so far in 2021. As of June 4th, he's first in the National League in OPS+, and he's among the top 5 in all of baseball in weighted runs created plus. And if you think, well, yeah, these last few years have really made him take a step back, he's not that elite talent that he once was, Since Kris Bryant entered baseball in 2015, he is third in Fangraphs WAR, behind only Mookie Betts and Mike Trout. This guy is a huge superstar, playing like a huge superstar in a huge market. And I know that the hype has died down on him a little bit, but I think he's worth considering again. He's only 29 years old. Maybe part of the reason his market cooled down, obviously the injuries, but there's that uncertainty about what his future will bring. Will he be in Chicago next year? Is he going to move to a different market? But I think the way that he's playing right now, and frankly the way the Cubs are playing, coming off of a sweep against the Padres, they're right up at the top of the National League Central. I think it gives the Cubs the incentive when they're looking at all these free agents they have in the next couple of years, Baez, Rizzo, and of course Kris Bryant. I think they have to look at Bryant as the top priority. If he stays there in Chicago for the long haul and continues to produce like he has, and there's really no reason to think he won't, Kris Bryant, I think, is a fantastic long-term investment that you, if you don't have him in your collection yet, should be keeping an eye on if you're scrolling through eBay anytime soon. All right, our third pick, let's talk about NFL rookie quarterbacks, because there's a lot of them, and everybody and their mother is going to be collecting rookie quarterbacks this season, and the season has begun to start collecting these guys. Last week, we saw the release of Leaf Metal Draft Football. Next week, we're seeing the release of Prism NFL Draft Picks. If you're looking to start building those sets of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, now is the time to start. That has begun. Who's going to be the number one guy? It's pretty obviously Trevor Lawrence. And if you do have some doubts, remember, this guy is being talked about as a generational, once-in-a-lifetime talent. Who were the other guys who were described that way? I was watching the NFL draft, and they ran them down. John Elway, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck. I know Andrew Luck retired early, but I don't think anyone can argue that those three guys didn't live up to the hype. Trevor Lawrence, I think, has all the reasons in the world to live up to the hype, but we're going to talk lots about Trevor Lawrence down the road. I want to focus on Justin Fields here for a little bit, the Chicago Bears selection, and he's as much of a sleeper as you can be when you're selected in the first round for the Chicago Bears to play quarterback. Yeah, and I know we're talking a lot about Chicago here, but there's a reason we're talking so much about Chicago. For one, the National is going to be taking place in the Chicagoland area, and Chicago, of course, next to New York and Los Angeles, probably the third biggest market in all of the United States. And thirdly, being the quarterback for the Chicago Bears is probably the most important job in Chicago. Second, of course, being the actual mayor of Chicago. Justin Fields' jerseys are already 3 of the top 5 sellers right now after he got drafted with some guy I never heard of at the top 2. If Justin Fields actually breaks this curse of Chicago Bears quarterbacks of being sort of eccentric at best and mediocre to terrible at worst, this is huge. If Fields can finally break through, become a star quarterback that this franchise has basically never had, he will be the biggest sports star in Chicago since Michael Jordan. Yeah, I'm serious. Even if he is like the 6th best quarterback in football, he will be treated like a king in Chicago. I think of all of these quarterbacks in the first round, other than Trevor Lawrence, the guy who's got the best chance to vault to the top of the hobby is Justin Fields, just because of his situation and because the Bears' best quarterback in their franchise history is Jay Cutler. Sorry, guys. Not a high bar to clear. Justin Fields, good luck. All right, last guy we're going to talk about is Donovan Mitchell, Utah Jazz superstar, who was out for a lot of the regular season. About the second half of the year, he was hurt, didn't even play in the first game of the first round against the Memphis Grizzlies, and wasn't actually very happy about it. Memphis won that game, if you recall, and Donovan Mitchell felt like he was ready to play. And then he goes on and plays, and they go on to win the rest of the series, thanks in large part to the play of their young budding superstar. Mitchell averaged 28.5 points per game and just under 6 assists per game in that series win against Memphis, but it was in that series clincher where he had his best performance, which is exactly what you're looking for from a superstar in the making. 30 points in that game, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. He shot an insane 68.8% from the field, even more insane 62.5% from three-point land. I'm not going to go so far to say that Donovan Mitchell is the next great player in the NBA. But a top 10 player, maybe even a top 5, maybe I won't go that far. But this guy has a much easier path to go to the finals here in the West. There really has never been a better year for a team like the Utah Jazz. I know they're the number 1 team, so they should be the ones to be favored. But now the Lakers are out. The Clippers are on the brink. A lot of big-time teams have seen early exits. A lot of big-time players, LeBron, Steph Curry, are not in the playoffs. I know that Utah Jazz players aren't the sexiest to collect here in the hobby, but if Donovan Mitchell can overcome odds, get the Jazz to the finals, win the finals for the first time in franchise history, this sets him up on the path for future success. This guy is under 25 years old. This team has a good core of talent. The Jazz could be set for a long run of success for many years to come. We'll see how it goes. The Jazz have never had a better chance of storming through the West. No LeBron, no Steph, Donovan Mitchell. Now's your time. All right, that's going to do it for this week. Make sure to subscribe to Mojobreak Media for more content. And, of course, make sure to check out our podcast, The Hype, every Wednesday here on Mojobreak Media.